This episode, I've got my good mate Chris, aka Dexta, aka what would you call me, Dexter? What do you call me? You call me
Music Dad.
Music Dad. There we go. Because we have a running sort of thing in the shop, don't we?
Bald head.
Yeah, people do say like they don't, they always say to me, "Oh, Neil is, are you his younger brother?" And I'm like, no.
You're right.
But yeah, they think we're related, which it's not a bad thing. But yeah, I did actually meet your dad, didn't I, one time? And
I think you've met him a few times.
Yeah, I've met him a few times, but yeah, I know he calls me Music Dad. Anyway, I think I first met you maybe like a few years back when you opened your shop. I mean, we'll get fully into the shop later, but when you opened up Planet Wax, because that's your...
Discworld it was called back then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, Discworld, all right. Well, we'll get more into the shop, but I always like to start off with sort of beginnings of sort of music sort of stuff. Do you want to just tell us like where you grew up and sort of some early sort of music things and like, or music that you're into, like?
Yeah, like I was born in the mid-80s in North London. So despite what anyone may think of me, I am actually a North Londoner. And I came down south to the dark side probably about 15 years ago now, roughly. But yeah, I grew up in North London in a place called Friar Barnet, which, if you don't know where that is, it's kind of like sandwiched in between like Muswell Hill, Wood Green, Finchley, Whetstone, maybe if you heard of that.
It's on that weird bit at the end of the Northern Line. I always see that.
It's not even on it. There's no trains.
Is it?
There's Arna's Grove.
Okay.
It's on the Piccadilly line. It's quite kind of close, but yeah, it's like bus.
Yeah.
It's a bus area sort of thing. So, but yeah, I grew up there. Like a lot of my family were based around there. My parents separated when I was very young, so like I'd be around different groups of people all the time. But yeah, musically, my earliest memories of music are like just at home. Obviously, being at home, you'd hear like things such as like Motown would be on at my dad's house, or like a bit of rock music, like such as the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. At my mum's house, she was more into the more dance music. And I remember like listening to like compilations at home. Like she would just order them in. Like there used to be like a mail order thing. I don't even know what it's called. I try to find out what it's called, but and you just pay them like, I don't know, a subscription. It's like subscriptions were happening in the 90s apparently as well.
Yeah.
So you just pay them and then they send you like 5 discs and then you keep the ones you want and then they keep on sending you them.
This is vinyl or CD, was it? Or?
CDs.
Oh yeah, alright.
Yeah, they were vinyl.
So you started off in digital, not vinyl.
yeah. Tape, I had cassettes as well.
Okay,
actually, so
alright, okay,
technically
alright.
a bit of both.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, like there was compilations like like now.
Yeah.
Now that's what I call music and.
478, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's like dance, like there's dance ones as well, like dance compilations and even albums. I remember like at one point had like 2 Unlimited's album at home, so like I remember that like part of my childhood. I also had like Take That, Spice Girls.
Well, I will say, because one of the things is I always like to talk about the first records that people bought. I like normally they're quite embarrassing, so but in a fun sort of way. It was
Oh, I mean, I can't remember the first CD I bought because there were so many just floating around and cassettes. Right. I did have the tape pack of Jungle. It's like one of the Jungle Manias with the little character on the front with the spiky hair. It might have been Jungle Mania 1 or 2. I do remember either buying that or getting given it. Because I had a cousin, some of my family are a bit older than me, so like a lot of my cousins were like 10 years older than me, and they would be all going out raving, and I would be seeing them on the weekend where they were, probably coming down. I just thought they were just really moody kids, but they would actually they would get the tape packs and put them onto CDs and stuff, and I would take that back because they were all like out of London, that side of the family anyway, the older lot. So they're like Berkshire. So we come back to London with these CDs, and that would I had like a little hi-fi at home that I could put them on in my bedroom or in the lounge. I don't know what the music was. I just liked it. I wasn't stuck to one genre. I was listening to anything, like different styles. I wasn't fixated on anything.
Well, that's a good thing at that point. You normally are like that all over the shop, and then maybe there's a certain point that you lock in. Maybe more your later teenage years, you lock into some genre that you really feel.
Kinda, yeah.
But all right. So yeah. So Jungle Mania. How did that sound on your little stereo at home?
Rubbish. Like if I was to reproduce a super bass. It was called.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they always had that button. Yeah, one of them buttons. Yeah, it's like max bass or super bass. Yeah,
it must have been like a, I don't know, like a 3-inch.
Yeah.
Drive, two 3-inch drivers and
yeah,
no tops. But like, yeah, they had that. Like the stuff that really stuck with me, like, is like the Prodigy, or the Prodigy, should I say? Their music just really spoke to me, and I remember like I don't remember the Experience album when it came out. I was far too young, but I do remember like when they had the music videos for like No Good, which was off the second album, Dual Generation, and I actually got given a pirate copy of that. So like the CD didn't look the same, but they had someone that actually made printed out the cover, which is I must still have that at my dad's loft actually.
Was that all down the market or something? Or
no, I think it was just like someone in my family had it and they copied it for everyone whoever wanted it.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, I guess. Like, piracy has been around, forever, really. I mean, it was tapes in the 80s, and then, I remember the CD culture coming in when you could suddenly burn a CD at home, CDR,
Yeah, tapes. I used to use tapes to record off of radio. So, like, before I started buying actual vinyl, I would buy CDs and tapes from, like, Our Price and Woolworths and stuff like that.
That's just local shops.
They were actually a thing back in the 90s, you see.
Yeah.
You could go and buy a CD for £1.
Really?
It'd be a single, but you sometimes got some good remixes on them though, that's what I used to buy, like a pop record, and then a lot of the time, because in the 90s obviously dance music was like blowing up in the UK. Every single, even if it was from America, had a British dance version or some sort on there, or like a like dance-ish, or you know what I mean, whether it's good or bad doesn't really matter. But vinyl, I only started buying vinyl in like 2000, I think 2000/2001, and that's because prior to that, just tuning into radio, getting a bit bored now of Radio 1, or I don't know if Radio 1 was a thing, but like maybe Capital or Kiss 100, that I'd get bored of that sometimes. It'd get a bit too cheesy. I was still young, still into a bit of cheesy stuff, but also been a bit like intrigued and curious.
Did you hear any of the Pirates? Was that
yeah.
On, or like?
I used to listen. I was in North London. I can't really remember all of the stations that I used to listen to, but one I used to tune into a lot, and if it wasn't on there, I'd be really upset. It was called Y2K, very much UK garage. So that's what I was finding. I was just scanning on this tiny little rubbish, that little same stereo I'm talking about. Very hard to fine tune, but you can find them. And and then and then you hear a garage tune, and then I wait for a little bit and see if I like the vibe. And you're going into like Our Price and Woolworths trying to go, have you got this new thing? No, they didn't have them music. They didn't have that music. They had like the Craig David sort of Artful Dodger CDs. But then I found out about that they were actually releasing these songs on vinyl. And I remember vinyl just being the sort of thing that was just in my dad's loft, dusting off, But I managed to find out that there was a local record shop to me, and I still can't remember what it's called. I've been trying to do research for the past 5 or 6 years. It seemed to just pop up and then disappear overnight.
Right. What area was the record shop?
I think it was called Fab Records, I think. But I'm not 100% sure. It was on Ballards Lane in Finchley Central, kind of close to where the KFC is. So anyone watching, because no one I've spoken to's been there, and I feel like, is it a figure of my imagination? But I used to go in there, on my lunch breaks, I used to skive off school so much. I didn't like school.
That's terrible behaviour, yeah.
I know. I didn't like school.
No.
It wasn't for me. We're even discussing whether we're going to send our children to school in the traditional form, but I didn't really enjoy it. There was something calling me outside of school, and there was this record shop called Fab Records, and I would just save all my pocket money, my lunch money. Just don't eat. I know I'm quite big, but I didn't used to eat, but I save every penny I had, because they weren't cheap. And I was going in there, and I'd spend hours because I only had under a tenner,
Well, I will say, I'm probably the same as you, and I was a lot slimmer back in the day because I would spend my food money on records.
Exactly.
Obviously, I still buy records, but I probably. Yeah.
Used to go and buy from the lunch queue. Just go and buy like the cheapest item and then nick something basically in my blazer.
Yeah.
Don't tell my mum.
No.
And I'd spend pretty much. I go to my morning classes, and then in the after lunch time, you've lost me now. Right. So if you look at my attendance record, afternoons, Dexta was never there. Right. But Used to go in there and spend hours and hours because, firstly, I wanted to just hear what's being played in the shop and what other people were into, and I was still quite young, you know. And obviously, I wanted to come home with at least 1 or 2 records, which you could probably just about get with the amount of cash I had.
And like you said, you're just sussing stuff out then. You don't really... You kind of know that you like something, but you don't kind of know what it is, do you?
No, and it was also novel to me. But they kind of like, from my recollection, this particular record shop specialised in UK garage. I mean, no one I knew liked garage, by the way. I just loved it. It was just, that's the first style of music that I was like, do you know what, everything else can take a back seat now. I love this. But I was going in there and getting like the, just white labels, a lot of white labels. I didn't even know what they were.
Do you remember what any of the tunes were you bought then, like the first ones, like names of them? Like,
I remember getting like Bingo Beats Volume 1, which is a DJ Zink's record label.
Yeah. That
he started around at the same time he made Beats by Design EP, which was a drum and bass EP on True Players, but there was one tune on there called 138 Trek, which everyone listening to this has probably heard. I love that tune, and that was actually on, I used to buy the Pure Garage CDs, that's another thing, so I buy the Pure Garage CDs, and then you're going into the record shops and going, have you got this one, have you got this one? A lot of them tunes, when the CD was published, they weren't actually released, they were dub plates still, or on promo or whatever. Mm. So trying to get them, you go to HMV, they would search through their little, they got like a little DOS app, I don't know if you remember that.
DOS app?
Yeah, you know, like they go on the computer, they turn it around and they have like a, you know, like MS-DOS.
Oh, yes.
So the black
when
screen...
you said DOS, I was thinking, what do you mean? But then that's what I knew about like the MS-DOS, really?
Yeah, it was that, and they were searching, I didn't know what a catalogue number was, but they were they were looking on, they were like going, oh, what's the serial number? I don't know, I just know the artist name.
I just know it goes skibbity skibbity.
I have phone ringing around records. Yeah. I have to do that embarrassingly.
Well, we have talked on the podcast before, and I even said, like, back in the day, HMV, the one in Oxford Street, always used to get some cool imports. I used to sometimes, I'd go around all the specialist shops, and then HMV was a good secret weapon, because they'd have a tiny little bit, where they order, like, particularly with old school electro and stuff like that back in the mid-80s, but, like, they'd have them sitting there. Someone obviously was and you might find a tune that you couldn't find anywhere else because hardly anyone else would go to HMV. So I scored some great tunes from the big shop like that, just because
in your day definitely. With my day, it caught up. It wasn't so secret, but I remember going into like black market records and then listening to a load of records and then kind of working out which ones you wanted, but you could never afford them all. Then go to HMV and see which ones they had because they were always going to be cheaper. And then go back and chance if there's anything left that you really liked, and then you get what you're given by that point. So that was the kind of trade-off. But going to HMV, you could sometimes get the same record that's like £5-6 in black market for like 3 for a tenner in HMV. So that was wicked. And imports and stuff like that. I used to buy like some hip-hop stuff that you couldn't get anywhere, but only HMV. And they were a bit more expensive. But
Did you know they were a bit more exclusive, or...?
I didn't know they were exclusive, but they were hard to get hold of, so I understood that. I didn't know why. And obviously I knew what import it meant, but then...
Because again, like back when I was sort of like that age, like the imports were kind of cool. It's almost like a badge of honour getting the imports.
Oh, right.
Because you're getting like almost like the cool sort of record that most people don't know about.
I just wanted it because I liked the song, and I didn't think that I would have been in an elite club of having that. I just thought, I really want this record. Where am I going to get it from? Obsess over that, and if you don't get it, I still try and find some of them now. I know you've got the internet now, but before then,
we've moved on from MS-DOS.
Exactly. CFAX and MS-DOS.
Exactly. Yeah, so
I do remember them things.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking of black market records then, because when I was at school, I did work experience, and luckily, my stepmother, she talks to everyone when she's out and about, and she used to work in the West End. She got chatting to someone on the train and managed to wangle me not an internship, but like a 2-week placement at M&C Saatchi's in Soho. Okay. So otherwise I was going to be stacking shelves in Boots or something like that. I'm glad that I did that. It was graphic design, which I didn't really know much about at the point, but I was doing a graphic design placement, and then on my lunch break, what am I going to do in Soho? I started discovering record shops, and it was at the same time that I was discovering garage music. So not only did I have the shop that I referred to in Finchley, I now had Soho and the shop. There's loads in that day.
Soho back then was gold mine for record stores. I mean, I've worked in the West End, and that almost was like your lunch was in Reckless and every other shop that you could manage to visit, you know.
I think I was late back from lunch every day. But, you know, they didn't really care because they were so busy. They were doing, like, all sort of campaigns with, like, I remember the Tony Blair one with the long nose, the Pinocchio nose. Okay. I think that was a conservative against...
You were working for the Tories as well.
I wasn't working, I was just dossing around. They were teaching me how to use the Macs. I didn't know what a Mac was.
Well, it was Saatchi, actually. Saatchi did do all the ads for the Tories. Yeah, so, you know.
Yeah, I remember it. I do remember because they were like, shall we use this one with a long nose? And, like, it was so simple what they'd done. And, like, I was like, okay. I thought it was great, you know, like, I weren't really into the politics, but I was just like, this is going to be a billboard, and they were, you know, and they taught me of how it all works, even more like geekery, like, the pixels have to be a certain ratio and size, and it's kind of like that work experience point, it must have been, I don't know, like, is it like 14, 15, 16, I think 15-ish?
Yeah, I mean, it's normally about that age. I think it's about a year, I think, before you're about to leave school then.
Yeah.
And like, you know, basically to go, all right, mate, you're going to have to go out in the real world soon. Why don't you check out what this shit's like?
Yeah.
And sounds like you got a pretty good touch of somewhere. So were you actually into graphic design? How come you ended up in the graphic design place? Was that
I think maybe because of that placement.
Just because of luck? It wasn't like you were really into the graphic design, you just had...
No, I mean, I've always been quite creative. I've always, like, when I was younger, I used to draw a lot, be it just doodles or... I used to design in my own head anyway, on paper, platform computer games and like, you know, I'd have like 10 sheets and you'd have the whole level, like,
wow.
Yeah, I remember doing that and I was like, yeah, we're going to launch this computer game. And like one of my mates, like schoolmates back then, primary school, this is early, right? His neighbour upstairs, because he lived in a flat, was actually worked for a games developer. Like, and I was like, no way have you got to get... I was like, all right, I'm going to design this whole game and then we're going to present it to them. Never happened. I feel like we delivered it and then we just didn't hear anything back. The game was probably a load of rubbish, if I'm honest with you.
Well, do you know what? I remember as a kid, I had a little ZX Spectrum. You know, what they are the early computers.
Okay.
But you could play video games and I designed video games on them, you know. So I actually made some programmed them, you know, and... Well, I won't go too much detail because it's a podcast about you, but like my first job was computer programmer, like because I was really good at that sort of stuff.
I should have known you back then, Dad.
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, yeah. All right. So yeah. Back to your graphic design and your placement. So yeah. So you're in this place, and what you're getting it. You're starting to learn all this sort of stuff and getting into it.
Or? I was like, so because I'm not jumping forward here and but so I'm in this placement. It must have been 2000/2001. I was putting tunes together very badly. But, you know, I thought they were the best thing. The project I had, because these guys, imagine how busy they were. My stepmom talked them into giving me a placement. They probably didn't want me there. But they did show me how to use the computer, and I learned lots from that. And the software was Quark. Photoshop.
Yeah, Quark, I think, but I don't know,
I think Photoshop as well, like early Adobe Photoshop.
Quark is the one, there's the old school, because I remember you get that on the Mac from the 80s, like to publish magazines and stuff like
now
that.
You'd use something like InDesign, or I don't know, it must be another equivalent. I use InDesign now, pick up Adobe. I was doing, they sat me down on day one and said, you know, what would you like to do, or like something creative, I said, well, I've got a load of tunes that I've made, maybe I could pretend I had an album and we could make all the packaging.
Well, you told them that?
No, they asked me what would I like to do design-wise. I was like, design the packaging of an album. So like I made a CD.
That's cool.
On-body, print, inlay. I didn't even consider these things. I knew what they were because I've been buying them for donkey's years, but for a few years prior to this point. So I knew that you could open them up and there's some of them fold out, some of them are pamphlet. I still got that at home somewhere. Should have brought it with me. You can have a photo of that.
Send me an image of that.
It's terrible. But I'll happily show it off. So that was in 2 weeks for a beginner, that is quite a big job. And I managed to go from, drawing little sketches on paper to actually printing it and cutting it and folding it so it works as a CD. And, I picked up a lot of skills along the way over them 2 weeks whilst being in the studio rather than in Soho record shopping. And my musical journey led me to then do like radio shows and things that would require me to do self-promotion, which I had no idea about. I never knew about marketing or anything like that. But I feel like one place asked me, can I send them an advert? Like, not like a commercial, but a flyer advert.
What place asked you?
Radio station.
Okay.
I played on a few different radio stations.
This is pirate radio.
Well, technically it was pirate, but it wasn't like FM. This was now the day of web broadcasting, so I don't know if you call it online radio.
Yeah, I mean,
it was all illegal. Like, there were no licenses involved. But you know, they do like these things called shoutcast. You get a plug-in on your computer. If you're lucky, you could go to a studio. I've done a few of them, but the main ones I started on one called Rush FM, I think it was called, and then I went on to UK-based radio.
So you were mixing tunes by this point then? You were DJing then? You were mixing vinyl?
I probably should rewind a bit.
Yeah, you might want to rewind a little bit.
So the tunes that I'd made for that CD were like not too long before that. Like, obviously I was into the music. I'm not even gonna lie, yeah. I bought a packet of not cornflakes, but some sort of cereal. Shreddies, I think.
Some Kellogg's product, I believe. Yeah,
Kellogg's, yeah. Well. It had a disc in it. Yeah. In the thing, it had a disc. So I didn't even know it had a disc. I was pouring my cereal out, and then suddenly a disc falls out, yeah?
Yeah.
And it says, Dance EJ Volume 2, or I think 2 or 3, I can't remember, it's orange. I remember these things. And my mum had actually just finished doing a computer course.
Yeah, lucky you hadn't poured the milk in yet, no.
Oh yeah, there's no milk in there yet, mate. I don't use milk.
Okay.
No. So I pulled this disc out, and I was like, well, fascinated. My mum had bought a computer because she just finished doing this computer course and, you know, retraining to go into a different job. She was a nurse at the time. It doesn't really matter. She was bought a computer and it had a CD or DVD, I don't know, drive. Again, you know, I knew what CDs were because I'd listened to music, but I didn't know what CD-ROM was. So I put that in, turned the computer on, and then up pops up essentially a very simple DAW. I don't know what I was looking at. But it had lots of loops at the bottom, very simple, click and drop, and they were all somehow time stretched. You could change the speed or tempo, very simple, and the beats would get faster. And I was like, wow, you know, this is done for you, isn't it? It's almost like AI, almost back in.
Sonny, your producer.
Yeah, top producer. So these tunes I referred to, they were made on this software where there was a beat matrix, it's called, I think, and you would have, you know, your kick drums and different hits. So I was actually programming like you would on a modern day DAW or even like a drum machine, right?
Yeah.
You had like
16
bar loops. It's only 16 bar. It might have been 8, you know. Yeah. But anyway, it's either got 8 or 16 hits, and you could program them, and it was great fun. And I would mix my own beats with also drum loops and also noise, like just other bass lines or instruments. Occasionally, I would actually get the microphone and record samples in a sound recorder.
Oh, so you could record in,
No, but on Windows, it had a thing called Sound Recorder, and it was a very simple sound recording app. You plug your microphone in, took me ages to work that out. But you could actually, I would go, take the microphone to the radio and record sample in, right? I didn't know that you could do a line in. I probably could have done that, I just didn't know.
All right, well, again, I'm old enough to, when you had to do that with crappy tape recorders next to the TV.
Yeah, same thing.
Because you wanted to record a sample of a film, and the old VHSs, the line out was you could never get that to work.
Well, I didn't know it had one.
Yeah.
So it did have one, I think, but I didn't know. So I was using the mic. I could have literally just done it with one cable, right? But I remember recording samples from what's that? The Exorcist.
Yes.
Samples from The Exorcist.
Okay. Where she's possessed or something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Tubular Bells.
Yeah, all right.
But then the thing is, I didn't know how to time stretch. So when you played them over, it was a catastrophe. I've still got them. These songs on a mini disc, and it's on that CD, but the CD don't work.
If it's possible to cut any bits of these songs in now.
No.
Yes, come on.
That's not gonna happen. Maybe.
It's probably not copyright. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. There's other ones that I've done that are my own melodies or. All right. But so I was making tunes on this software. It was quite hard, but also it was quite simple to use. And I'm quite intuitive, so I didn't find it hard to use, but it was quite hard to understand the learning of tempo and speed because you're recording a sample and it's just going to play back at the original speed. If I change the speed on the song, then you could do that, catch up, you know. So then your song ends up at a really weird speed. I didn't know that genres had tempos either, by the way. I just thought that was just a weird function that made it sound faster or slower. And I wasn't DJing yet, so this was before I'd actually started practicing or whatever. And then not long after that, I found out someone in my school also was mucking around with these kind of softwares. There's one called Mixman, and it was very simple, like two circular images with 16 samples on each, and they were also like looped into tempos. It's the same sort of thing, but you could do it on the fly, and you could press different keys on your keyboard to trigger them, on, off, on, off. And you could record them. I don't think I actually made anything on there, but that was hours and hours of fun, just going, you know, on my rubbish little speakers, the little computer speakers.
No, they made some of them also. I mean, I'm actually on this quite niche Facebook group, which is called the Obsolete Music Software.
Oh, right, yeah, they'll be on there.
So, to be honest, I'm going to have a look to see if I can find, because people always posted some, I was going to say shit software. But like I said, they're kind of basic, but like again, they get you started making beats.
Yeah.
Like, and if there's some super complicated, because I know we get all the things with people making music on their Amiga and you got all the numbers.
I can't do that.
You probably wouldn't have started doing that, would you? Because you'd have been like, fuck that, this is too much.
No. Luckily for me, the graphic or the computer technology was good enough to be visual and, you know, like vertical. So, and there was like, then I got sent, you know, like once you start telling people what you're doing, like family members, older, they start, you know, if they see something, they'll give it to you. And I remember getting a thing called the Rubber Ducky. And actually, it turns out that the Rubber Ducky was actually in a 303 emulator. I didn't know what 303 was, but I remember it, the rubber kind of, you know, the acidic, rubbery...
So what, it's a piece of software you're talking about?
It was a standalone synthesizer thing. I didn't know though, I loaded it up and it worked. I didn't know how to take that and put that into a song. I didn't know how to export from it. I didn't have anything to...
You didn't know what to do with a Rubber Ducky?
No. It was nothing like my real Rubber Ducky, you know. But, that was an early, I suppose... experience, I guess, some degree to like a synthesizer, because it had all the parameters, you know, the envelope settings. I had no idea. No one taught me anything. There was no manual. It was just click around and go, oh, that sounds cool. And I remember trying to reproduce the bass line from Reach and Spin, the bass line version, like the dub version, Reach and Spin, one of my favourite garage tunes.
Yeah,
like, I love that song so much, and I managed to buy that. Not when it came out, because that was in the late 90s or early mid 90s. But yeah, I love that song and I still play that now. Mainly the other side, but I do like the other one. The other one's still my favourite.
So did you manage to do the bass line?
Yeah, and I actually managed to get it quite close, and I really do regret not learning at the time or persevering with how to export it, because it probably was just like file export, but I didn't know what export meant at that point or something, you know.
Well, like
render.
You said, I mean, like, it sounds from like your school experience as well. Like you're not really going to sit down and read a manual. So, but again, a lot of times the best way is just to really get in there and use stuff, isn't it? And then go, all right, and then you're like, oh shit, I didn't know it did that. And all right, people will say, oh, you need to sit down and read all the manual first. But
I didn't have one.
Yeah, well, again, probably didn't mind it.
These were pirated softwares, by the way. I didn't get officially anything. We didn't have money. Yeah. We didn't buy anything like that. That came not long afterwards, though, like buying actual stuff. We'll get to that. But so yeah, this music that I'm referring to from the graphic design was all made on this very rudimentary, free, in a cereal packet.
So this is for your album, your debut album.
Your debut album.
Your debut album. Yeah, come on. Need to release that for Record Store Day.
I have recently acquired a mini disc player that I can record them, export them from.
Okay.
I have to record them, I guess. I can't. I
Right.
could probably plug it into my computer.
Might be a good idea to do some remixes, mate. That'd be quite...
There's one on there, actually. There's quite
do some edits. Like maybe get them sounding like, you know...
So, yeah. I'm making music with this rudimentary software. And it's coming on TV. And I remember, like, is it A Little Bit of Luck by DJ Luck and MC Neat.
When you say it was coming on TV, what, the music was coming on TV?
The music video, it was on, like, MTV... No, I don't know if it was MTV, but I used to watch, like, Top of the Pops, and just general TV. They would pop up, not pop up like on a computer, but you know, they would be there and I'd see them somehow. I was exposed to this video. And a lot of other songs, and then you start noticing that they've got these decks. And I was like, wow, that's a record. Like, it's the same time as I'm just about to start buying vinyl and stuff. Or maybe I was buying vinyl. And then I was like, oh, so they're actually using these discs not to listen to the song, they're using them to perform. And then I was like, wow, that's another way of
What are these giant black CDs they're playing?
Yeah, no, I knew what they were because I had a record player at my dad's house.
Yeah.
So I was going to the record shops and using them on my dad's old Technics hi-fi separates.
Yeah.
Which was the only way of listening to these music, unless you were tuning into pirate radio and hearing them, or going to clubs, way too young.
Yeah.
So boom, I'm there, listening to them on the thing, and then I'm all of a sudden like, I need to get a second one now, don't I? I don't know how to get a second one. I don't know, like they didn't make these. They only made these in before the war or whatever. Do you know what I mean? These are old junk. And then, funnily enough, one of the kids in my school, he was getting Technics, and he was telling everyone about it, even though no one knew what that meant. And,
well, no, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, they weren't cheap back in the day as well.
No, his parents must have bought it. He was getting them on his paper round or whatever. But like, he was screaming and shouting that he was getting Technics. At the same, because we had a school disco, and he brought his current decks, and I was fascinated. You know, I wasn't dancing. I was just like, wow, what is going on there? Like, and I just got chatting. He wasn't in my class or anything. But he was in my year, and I got chatting to him about it all. And then essentially, he was buying these new ones, perfect Technics, and he was getting rid of the other ones. I think he sold me his. They were Red Dwarfs, Cam Red Dwarfs they were called.
Oh right, I've never heard of them. Yeah.
£10. Yeah, pair of them. Belt drives, a bit like Sound Labs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were probably like cheaper Sound Labs.
I've never heard of Red Dwarf. So.
You've heard of Cam, right?
Yeah.
KAM.
Yeah.
And they were red with black details.
Okay.
Belt drives, just like a Sound Lab.
Right. I will Google an image in of them because I'm sure about.
Yeah, they're Googleable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the DJ, I didn't have a DJ mixer, but I had the two.
Were they alright? The decks? They're like bearable? No, or terrible?
No,
or?
Like, I thought I was the dog's bollocks when I was on them.
Yeah.
I had to save up money to buy a DJ mixer, which they were well expensive.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about. Actually, no. I was looking in the Yellow Pages. Is it? No, Loot.
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 Yeah.
We used to buy this magazine called
Okay.
Loot, and it's classified. It's a bit like Marketplace on Facebook or eBay, but there's no bidding involved.
Again, one of the old podcasts I cut in a picture of me. There's a picture of me in the early 90s reading, sitting there with a Loot.
Loot, yeah.
Reading it, and when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I forgot about Loot.
Yeah, it wasn't even. It was a newspaper actually. It wasn't.
It come out every day.
Is it daily? Wow.
You come out every day. You go and buy and look in. I mean, this is but because I was always looking for Simps or stuff, and
yeah, I bet.
But every day, like it come out, you go and buy Loot, and you'd phone up the ad to try and get this.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my old music gear I got out of Loot. Anyway.
I bet that was a really good resource for that. I couldn't find a DJ mixer, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And the one time I looked in the Loot. But I did find that there was this other place in East Finchley, I forget what it was called, but it was a audio and visual shop. So they sold sound systems, decks, amps, speakers, lighting, everything you can imagine that we'd need in a disco. Or it wasn't really high tech, it was just...
No, but there was always like a few of them shops, they were like PA shops. Like,
PA shop,
because you know a lot of people doing their discos, and like even if it's just for like a wedding or...
A lot of that going on, mate.
Yeah.
Parties in general.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously still is. That most parties are like, you know... Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know, they probably also hired it out as well.
Exactly, yeah, they hired it out, yeah.
So I found one, I went in there and I had a consultation. My dad was with me, my other dad, my biological father. Big up, Dad.
Yeah.
And he'd take me there. I went there a few times, and they let you have a go on it, and like on the different ones. There was one I wanted, and it was the one that was in the record shop, Fab Records, and that was actually it was a Pioneer. I can't remember what it is. Maybe DJM 400. It's black with gold detail, and it's much. I think it's the first one of the current one now. You know, if you go back in the timeline of, and I really wanted that one, but yeah, the price tag was like, you know, like that was like you're never gonna get one of them, son. So I saved up.
Yeah.
This is literally saving up things such as pocket money. I started a paper round. I used to also go to the tuck shop, not the tuck shop. I used to go on my way to school. Use my lunch money, gamble it, go and buy loads of sweets and Coca-Colas and that, take them with me in my bag and then sell them at break time, and then double your money, get your lunch, and you still got a bit of savings, and you can go and buy some records. And so I saved up money, right?
Yeah, nice little hustle.
Yeah, hustle, always hustling, man. You know, it's got to be done. Otherwise, where are you going to go, you know? Yeah. Unless you win something in a packet of savings. Yeah. So yeah, I'd save up, and I managed to save up, and it was a Citronic DJ mixer. I feel I didn't save up enough, but I showed my dad that I was willing to work for it, and you know, he subsidised it for me.
Yeah.
And I got this Citronic DJ mixer. So simple, but it done the trick, and so now I can finally mix the songs together, you know, and learn how to mix, because before that I was just like listening to it on the hi-fi. I couldn't even listen to these Red Dwarfs because I had no preamp. I didn't know what a preamp was. I didn't know anything. So then I got this thing, and then yeah, that's it. Then I'm locked in my room now. Don't talk to me. And I thought I was DJ EZ. Terrible. I probably have got. I can show you a clip of one of them, but you're not going to put it on there.
No.
But yeah, you know where you think you're like proper in the mix.
Yeah.
And it's just all over.
No, I mean, I've listened to old mixes from years ago, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
That's staying in the drawer. You know, yeah, because I upload some old mixes, but then there's certain ones you hear and you're like, no, that's staying private. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I learned how to mix on them to a certain degree, and I was always back and forth between DJing and making music and learning to make music. So, you know, if I got a bit bored of one or I got Fruity Loops, so I was making tunes on Fruity Loops. I was never able to play.
Was that a legitimate copy of Fruity Loops?
No, it was a demo. A demo, actually, just a demo. It wasn't a naughty one.
No, because everyone had a bootleg copy of Fruity Loops.
I did get one at one point, but the problem with the Fruity Loops demo, you couldn't actually save. Yeah. But you could export, so you'd export a lot, MP3. Ah. You export them, and that's it, you know. Yeah. So there's so many different versions of the same song because you keep on trying to remember how you made it. So that was a proper DAW almost. I think it didn't have a sequencer, but it had like a very simple sequencer actually.
Well, obviously, loads of the early Grime and stuff is done on them. I still call it Fruity Loops when obviously people call it FL now, but
FL Studio now I think it's called.
Exactly, or Fruity.
Yeah, and also I did have that. I didn't have it, but I used to have access to music. It was called, or Music 2000, and it was on the PS1, and I used to go to Blockbusters and rent it. It's like $1.99.
That's quite funny. You're dropping all these like early 2000 references that don't exist now. Like Blockbuster is another one. Is it?
Blockbuster's wicked.
You're showing your age. You're showing your age, Dexter. Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, you know, we've had MS-DOS, Blockbuster, Our Price.
I don't understand MS-DOS, by the way. That was a little bit after my time.
Anyway, all right. Yeah, you go to Blockbuster to rent out this PlayStation game.
Or there's a play called ePlay. Right, and they plagiarised the eBay logo, but it was a computer shop where you could a video rental shop, but they only done computer games. It was amazing. So I'd go and get that Music 2000, it was called, and like trying to figure it out on your, you know, with a controller. So it was even harder than a PC. But I gave up on that because it was so hard.
I've heard a few, again, early Grime people, though, say that that's how they started. By the PlayStation route.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, by the PlayStation route. Because, again, it's that thing of just being exposed to stuff. And like you said, you don't know what the fuck you're doing or even what a proper software is, but you're just like, shit, this is cool, I can make a beat.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can do that, you probably work with all the limitations, but again, in your brain, it's amazing because you're creating some piece of music that you've done. Yeah. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, you can save stuff as well because I had a memory card on the slot. I don't know how you take it from the memory slot onto a computer, but maybe you have to record it onto a mini disc or something like that. But you could do it, and there are probably Grime records in my collection that were probably started at least on a PlayStation 1.
I think they were, and I think there's certain sounds probably in there that you go, oh my god, there's that bloody sound. Like all these things, you're like, oh, where's that sound come from? And it's like, well, that's from that.
I do remember sampling my PlayStation. Yeah. So early years of sampling. But when I finished school, secondary school, I applied for a music college, but and I didn't have a kind of when you finish high school, secondary school, you apply for college if you want to go to college. And you normally have first choice, second choice, and if you're lucky, third choice. I didn't. I just had one choice. I went to all of these different colleges, and I was like, I only want to do this one course. music making technology at Woodhouse College in Finchley, near my nan's house. Yeah. Applied for that, done my GCSEs, somehow finished them, failed hard,
right,
didn't get in, disappointed.
Well, again, in my teaching career, I had to interview a lot of students, and obviously they turn up sometimes, and the first question is, show us your GCSEs, and then sometimes the mum's sitting there, and then they have that look, and then you look at the grades, and it's like, oh dear, okay, we can find something for you, but you might not get quite what you wanted at this stage of your life. You might have to, it's what happens, man.
Yeah, I didn't actually collect my GCSEs because you could go in and collect them. Yeah. Like they're like to put in your achievement record. I was like, no, I can keep that one. That's not an achievement, mate.
No, I mean, let's just say school wasn't quite right for you anyway.
Yeah, I never liked it, and I didn't do it, and that's why I failed, because I didn't attend enough.
And that is so yeah, I'm laughing not because you didn't get your exam, but it's one of them. Like I said, you had talents in other things, and that's the way people are, man. You maybe would not have been on an academic one, shall we say?
Yeah,
exactly. But you were selling your sweets and doubling your money, and you were like
learning business.
Exactly. Business and creativity. You were showing signs of that, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I failed that. Didn't get into the course I wanted, but I really wanted to learn how to make music, and and then I was like, well, how do I do that? What resources have I got? La 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 la. And then in the end, I found like one of my mates who was also into DJing and stuff. He was being taught very specific things about, because he was an MC and he was learning about how to record microphones. And he told me, go to the studio, come with me, like meet me afterwards and get chatting to them. And I spoke to them, and essentially they were like, oh yeah, we can do like a 10-week course of showing you around the studio. What is a mixing desk? What is they was using Logic. I didn't owe any money, right? And I weren't working. I wasn't at school. So I then went home and talked to my dad, and then he was like, you've got to go and get a job. So I got a job at Waitrose. And that money...
So this is like 16, 17 or
I was 16,
yeah.
I went straight. I didn't have a summer holiday. I just went straight into work because I wanted to make music, learn how to make music properly. And so I did this course. And so that first paycheck, I paid for it fully myself. There was no hand-me-downs or anything like that. I was taught how to do that, not just with the first one with Mixer. I got that kind of half price sort of thing. But yeah, this one, go and do that.
No, yeah, you earned it, yeah.
Yeah, don't go and flutter your money on other stuff. Go and put that money straight into the course. It's a full-time job I did as well, so I was getting paid. I was now earning, at the time, like adult money. I was a child. Yeah, so I was doing this course and I learned everything everything you need to know to be able to use a recording studio. From the software we were using, it was on the PC, but actually back in them days, you'd have Logic on the PC. They wasn't owned by Apple yet, so we were using Logic to record, a Logic 6 or 7. We had like mixing desks, and we'd be miking up a drum kit, learning the different types of mics, different types of gear, the software, like sound modules. Like MIDI sound modules. I didn't get into any synthesis. There was some synthesizers, but that would have been like another course, which, if I'm honest with you, by that point, I was like, I don't need to know about synthesizers. I was like, how do you sample sound? How do you sequence it? A bit like the hip hop and...
No, I mean, that's a good way to start. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of started a bit like that, just chopping stuff up, really, yeah. And like you said, it's a bit like getting that software that you got out the serial packet, where you could just start putting loops together.
Yeah. So I was familiar with what I was doing, but now I was like, this is how you do it. You remember a sequencer, them 16 bars? This is why they're 16 bars, and this is what they mean, la la la. So that was really good, and I studied that, finished the course, kept all the paperwork, and used that as reference. And by this point, it wasn't 10 weeks, but it was 10 sessions. By this point, I'd worked a few months, and I basically had enough money to go to Music Village. It was called back then, is it? Digital Village?
Yeah.
It's like a computer.
No,
music
I
shop.
remember that. I can't remember if it's
Digital Village.
It might be Digital
I
Village.
think it's called DV247 or something now. Or
yeah.
it was in Whetstone. High Barnet. In High Barnet, right up the top, next to the shopping centre. And I went in there for the first consultation, and they were like, "What would you like?" And I was like, "I haven't got anything. I didn't have a computer of my own. I had my dad's old compact Presario at his house, and some Hewlett Packard at my mum's house. They were both very simple home computers for writing letters. I think that's what
doing
they
your
were for.
accounts or like
Not even that. They weren't even self-employed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was. I was like, I need a computer that can run Logic. And at that point, Logic. And at this point, Logic don't. They've just been bought out by Apple. We don't sell Apples, so you can use Cubase. I don't know what Cubase was, but they said it's the same. So yeah, I went in there and I basically had enough money to buy a simple computer. Bought a couple of VSTs. I had to buy a sound card, so I could sample, obviously. A little mixer and a pair of speakers, and a microphone. And I bought, Tannoy Reveal active monitors.
Yeah, they're classic,
Yeah,
cheap,
nice.
decent speakers.
Yeah,
What they
nice.
are, they're like, you know.
They were such an upgrade to what I knew before.
This is what I said. Yeah, exactly. I know. Even when you go from that jump, because I had that when we were doing stuff in the basic shit hi-fi or like, and you're suddenly like, what? This sounds incredible.
Yeah.
You know, as much as you could be poncy now about some sort of speakers, but
I wish I kept them, if I'm honest. I think I blew one of them and then...
Yeah, you probably did blow one of them. Like, them sort of
blew one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only... I don't get rid of speakers unless I blow them.
Yeah.
I'll just keep them, you know.
Yeah.
Use them as support.
Well, they only last so long, them speakers, but they're good. They're good little speakers. They're good speakers.
And at that point, I also coincidentally, because you know what I was saying, I was doing DJing and then flicking between DJing and making music. I was in the hairdressers one day and I was getting my hair cut, obviously. And
Back in the day.
When I had hair.
Back in the day, mate. Yeah.
I was getting my hair trimmed and I knew my barber. It was the same guy, and he was like, "Oh, you don't know any because you know I like dance music. So you don't know any DJs, do you?" And I was like, "Not really, but I might know one or two. Why?" And he was like, "Oh, because I got a pair of these record players off the back of a lorry, right?" And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." I was like, "Okay, well, once we finish the haircut,
once we finish the trim,
we can go and have a look because there was no one queuing up, right? So we could look up." So we finished the haircut and then went into the car park and he opened the boot and there was literally a pair of 1210s. I was like, wow.
Oh my God.
And I played it down. I hustled him, right? I was like, oh yeah. He goes, oh, is any good then? I was like, I don't know. I heard of them. I think they're okay. And then he's like, he goes, oh, do you know anyone who might want to buy them? And I was like, yeah, maybe. Let me work this out. I had a mobile phone, luckily. Dad, can you bring I didn't actually have a bank account. I had I had to go into a savings thing. Even though I was working, because I was so young, I was still figuring it out. Dad, can you bring the savings account book and go to the it wasn't Barclays, it was whatever it was before. Woolwich. Is it no?
The Woolwich was a building society.
Yeah, that was it. It was a building society. So
yeah.
Can you get the Woolwich here and go and get me? And then basically
it's another old brand.
He goes, the guy wants £400, and I said, I know someone who's willing to buy them, but he's only gonna be able to give you like £200 if you want it today. And he took it, and I said, Dad, get the £200, and he and bring your car, and then literally I don't know, about half an hour later I'm there.
Screech around the corner.
I still got them now. They're still my Technics now. I was like, well, there you go. I was like, thank you very much. Yes, get out of there quick.
Wow. That's a touch, mate.
But hear this though, one of them was broken, the platter was bent.
Yeah. Okay.
Luckily, it turns out he had 3. So happily, he said, bring it back and I'll swap it over.
What?
I know, I love that story. I love it so much that I was just there getting my obviously non-existent hair cut.
Yeah, well, and, thank God for when you had hair, mate.
And then learning to DJ became fun again. Maybe that's why I kept on switching, because it weren't fun with the belt drives. And now suddenly you can match the beat and keep it in.
DJing with a belt drive, that's why I started, and it fucking nightmare.
Very hard.
It's nightmare. Well, it's that thing. If you touch it too hard, it either stops completely or it's the other way. If you try and push it.
Also, it's a delayed reaction. If you speed it up, it takes a while to catch up. I've even tried to DJ on belt drives now. Would be quite hard, I think. If I'm honest with you.
To be honest, you don't matter how good you are. I think DJing on a belt drive would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know,
Imagine DJ EZ on a belt drive.
Well, exactly. I was going to say, put Jeff Mills on some belt drives. He'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So I've got these Technics 1210s now.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm starting to get into drum and bass. I discovered drum and bass and all that through actually the DJ's Inc. stuff. So obviously, I was into the garage and then the breakbeat garage. And then just going into record shops. There's one in Southgate, which is kind of close to where I grew up as well. Scream Records, which is, I can't remember the owner's name, but he was safe. But the other guy, Shocking B, big up, he used to sell me records in there as well. And I went in there and I was like, have you got any DJs Inc? And they start giving me like the True Player stuff. Now I'm putting it on and I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar. Like, faster, because I remember the Jungle. And they were like, yeah, this is DJs Inc.'s newer stuff. And then obviously, only afterwards I've kind of clocked that, you know, DJs Inc. made Super Sharpshooter, then he made garage, then he made drum and bass. So like, speeds, la la la. I was like, okay, well, actually, I like DJs Inc. and his music and stuff like that, but I also like this faster sound. And so I didn't dump the garage. I still was collecting both, but I was getting more and more into that. And then it was kind of like jump up drum and bass, you know, like really disposable rubbish. And then I started doing the radio, which I referred to earlier, playing drum and bass. So I've always done drum and bass on the radio, never done anything with garage. That was all just me at home with my mates. They would MC for me and we would pretend we were on radio. And then obviously when it came to doing radio, you have prepared a little bit. You know I've got Technics and you can actually mix.
So how are you finding out mixing?
Match.
It takes a while to get your head around mixing properly.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard, man. It is hard. You know, we go on about like the hardness of like, you know, mixing on vinyl, but I said even with the superior Technics decks, it's still bloody hard, isn't it?
Stop and start, mate. Someone told me buy the same song twice.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, wait. And then I did. Yeah. And then when I did that, I was like, okay, let me actually take this seriously now. No one's listening. Put the song on, put the other song on, put them both on 0. Right, you can get them in time now, right? Because they should be in time. It's the same song twice. You know, put them both at +1 or put one at +1 and then try and get it. Just hours and hours and hours of repetitive.
Well, that's a clever way of doing it, you know.
So I did do that a lot, and I probably should have done that with the belt drives because that might have given me a bit of a head start. But so at that point, learning to mix, and not say mix, put in 2 songs at the same time, and then maybe cross-fading it over. You know,
particularly when you start, it's like do your mixes quickly, particularly on vinyl, like because you've got it in time, and obviously
you want to keep it there.
Well, and again, obviously it takes a while before you can start riding them vinyl records for 30 seconds a minute. Yeah. That's a long time in vinyl world.
I can only just about do that now. Well, so that was it's all happening at the same time for me, you know, and it wasn't a career. I was still working my day job, which is full time. So you know,
that was a Waitrose. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a gig when I was like 16 in the local nightclub through a group of people who were my friends. So yes, I was underage, but it happened. I played for like 15 minutes with my crew. Big up the SJC. And who
were they?
Just my mates. Solid Jam Cartel, they called it.
I was going to say, what does that stand for? Yeah,
that was my mate. The guy, Garrett, big up Garen, Killer B, Master G. He's had a few names. Yeah. I've been trying to track him down lately, man. He just disappeared, bro. But I miss him.
Well, but maybe you'll see this.
If you see this, man, reach out to me, please. I lost your email address and everything, man. Like,
yeah.
Because, But yeah, we went there and it was funny, to say that. Playing like, at that point, it was in between garage and grime. It's before grime was really happening. So like, I remember like tunes by like Sticky on Social Circles. Very bass heavy. And
that's a tune, man. Yeah.
So like that sort of stuff was playing at that point. And that was my first exposure to a nightclub, and I was very overwhelmed. And it was like the DJ booth was right in the middle of the dance floor. The club was packed out actually. Okay. Nothing to do with me. We were like, the SJC get a 15-minute slot because we were mates with the promoter sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know, and that was. Yeah,
but even that little bit at the time, that's like
it was very overwhelming, and I you
must have been shitting it when you're going on the decks. Yeah.
I was shitting it getting in.
Yeah.
So many people in one room. Like I'd never seen that before. I've been to concerts and stuff with my dad and like lots of people, but it's a different environment. This is like outside. This is like now in a dark room, loud music. Everyone was taller than me. I was still growing, you know. I was still like little me. I was little then. and it was very weird. And I had like a little. I remember I've still got it. My record box, had like 10 records in it. Played three tunes, I think, and that was it. But it was great fun, and I always remember that moment. So thank you. Forget the guy's name.
Get any rewinds? Yeah.
No, I just rewound them anyway.
Yeah.
Still do now.
You got to have people ask them. You can't just do them like without. Yeah.
Yeah, that SJC project didn't really go anywhere. I was the only one DJing, and he was the only one MCing.
Okay.
Everyone else was wannabe.
Well, again, look, at that age, it's just crews. I mean, funny enough, I just had the podcast with Ian St. Paul, and he talked about the early Soul Boy crews, and they all had names from different areas. All like the early breakdance crews, they all had their little names. It was like people like being in little gangs.
It's exactly the same.
If you're a teenager, you want to be in some gang, feel part of something, and some people are just in the gang because they just want to be with their mates and in a gang. It's cool. And then others are like, yeah, I'm doing this because I really,
Yeah.
So, so maybe...
Well, there was 20 of us, and there was two, what was that, 10%, is it?
Yeah.
5%.
Well done. Yeah.
5%.
Yeah. No, it's 10%. Yeah.
Yeah, 10% of us.
Yeah.
Well, 5% was a DJ, 5% was an MC.
All right.
So yeah, that was a little period. It was good. It showed me that there was more than just me making beats out of my cereal packet, right?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, actually, there's community behind it, and you do need other people. You need businessmen around you. Someone's going to be doing filming, because you film stuff or record stuff. You can't do everything. Like nowadays, you do.
Were you filming stuff then? Because I guess that's what's that the era of filming stuff?
We had like phone. It was very bad what we were filming.
I was going to say the quality must have been like that was like early 2000s. I don't know. Was there cameras on phones?
We had like the very early Sony Ericsson. I think had one.
Right.
Someone in the crew must have had something, or like a camcorder or whatever.
Have we got any SJC
No,
footage?
none of that, mate.
I was going to say, I'll cut that in.
You barely get any audio. I got one recording of an a cappella of. There was the later days of that project. There was 3 guys who were actually quite good. Rubbish, but quite good. Does that make sense? No.
Yes.
They were barely.
Sort of,
They were passable. I'd sample that now. I would, some of it, but I wouldn't use the whole thing. But I got that. And there's a couple of mixtapes, which they can stay hidden, I think, if I'm honest. But that was that period, done and dusted, but all under the belt, and it was like a awakening to like it's not just me. There is other people in the area who like this, and networking and communing. And then I guess what came next. So that was that period kind of done. That was the like. Coming of age, like when they talk about was it Corrupt FM? That was me, living that. We weren't faking it. We were just doing that.
You're doing stuff because you love it. I mean, that's the thing. You're just starting to work out what you love, and like this is I like doing this, and you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, and like all the kind of like the garage days were now kind of finished. As in, not for me, but they just were finished. Like there was nothing really going on because. So Solid Crew and all that were doing the grimy. That turned into grime basically. I guess you were sort of came in at the end of it, maybe towards the end of it. Or? Yeah, definitely. I'm only really going back nowadays. Really, if I'm honest with you, like grime was happening, and I liked the grime stuff. I actually remember going into Uptown Records and asking, "Have you got any garage?" And they were like, "Garage is finished, mate. And check this out." And he puts on there like Eskimo. Yeah. One of the Wiley instrumentals from must have been 2000, 2001. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. What is this? And they're like, I don't know, but he just brought it in earlier, la la la. So that was another fascination, the grime thing. Was that in Soho, was it? Yeah, it was on the same road. It was on Derby Street. No, because I used to go there a lot. I used to love going in there. Oh, yeah. And I used to buy loads of early grime white labels in there. That was my shop, actually, for it. That was actually my favourite shop. They didn't even have them in Black Market. There was only in Uptown. No, they'd always dig me out, and I'd always be like, "What them ones?" And yeah, exactly. I had no idea though. I was so young as well at this point. I was just like, "Give me whatever, anything that sounds like that, give it to me," and I'd just buy whatever I could afford. Did you know about white labels then? What was your thing? Because did you have like a thing about white labels? Because sometimes when you settle getting into it, like it's so cool that you're getting these white labels. That came a little bit later. I mean, these records were only on white labels. They weren't actually officially released. The people making them didn't know. They were just like, get the song on a CD, I presume. Exactly, yeah. Get it pressed. Well, again, that early set, well, I guess that's the thing, yeah.
it's just a different step when you, like, again, you've been buying your records from HMV or wherever, or the import shops, and suddenly they just white label with maybe with like someone just written, you know, some
the name.
The random name on
or
there.
Or phone number.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or a sticker. You get a sticker on it. Yeah, I would just get what I was given and just accept what it was. I didn't understand that it was a promo. Like, there was the promos. They would judge whether they're going to release it properly or not. Gauge how many to press or whatever. Didn't know that. No one told me. Again, it was all me just, you know, like, there was no internet. Well, there was, but the internet was not really for us. That was for information, or I don't even know what the internet was for. Buy online or something like that, I remember.
Well, the internet was going, but it wasn't, I guess it wasn't mainstream. It was still kind of, I mean, I was using the internet then, but like, you know, but...
It's an extension of CFAX.
Exactly, mate. You were still on CFAX.
You could book holidays.
Yeah, exactly. You were on CFAX. You had to wait for page 82 to come round again to see
the button. You know, there's a button that you can skip.
Oh, well, maybe you had the posh one that you could advance. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so
North
like
London.
So yeah, Garage had finished. Grime was happening, and I got into that watching Channel U and stuff at home. We had Sky at my dad's house, and they had Channel U. I think that wasn't free. I think that was still on Sky. So I was watching that and really got into that.
Any favourite videos from Channel U?
Oh, my days.
Like, I was just going to throw that in there because Channel U had some... for those who don't really know, because like, again, it's not just... Do we want to say what Channel U was like? What was it, cable, or what would you call it? Not cable.
Sky, I think it was
Sky. It was one of the channels anyway, but it was like for all the urban sort of music, wasn't it? And it was very...
You could upload your video. You send them I think you send them your tape.
Yeah,
and they put it on there. And you could request them as well, so you could text in and request what video you wanted to see next. It was like a jukebox.
So there was loads of the early grime and stuff like that on there.
Hip hop, R&B, grime, garage.
But they're all homemade videos.
A lot of it. Amateur productions.
So some of them are incredible. Like there are a lot of on YouTube that I love. And if you want to see the vibe from that time, watch some like Channel U video from 2002, 2003 or whenever. And you can see all the clothes and the style and all the youths in their gangs doing their signs, and it's hilarious.
I don't have a favourite one, but I do remember when the levels were set so high, and it had to be so Solid Crew when they did 21 Seconds. I don't know how much money they spent on that.
My favourite is UGC, Rep Your Ends.
I remember that song. I don't remember the video. Is it traumatically bad?
It's incredible, basically, and it's. That was the one I think I told you, like I was searching for this record for.
Okay, yeah.
And I finally got a white label of it, and I'm like, there's like 3 people got it on Discogs, and but the video is like 4 different crews from all north, south, east, west London, and they all battle each other. And I think who's in it? Like Big Nasty's in one of the crews. Early Big Nasty, and there's a few like grime heads before, but they all do these mad dance moves. And then the South London, they're all wearing these T-shirts that say South London with all the names of all the areas. Yeah, it's total ghetto. Yeah.
I have to write that one down, mate.
Yeah, I might show you after.
Is that on YouTube? Yeah.
Yeah, I might show you after the film because it's incredible. Anyway, sorry. Back to. I went off on a little tangent.
I'm just trying to get back to the date. So then Grime, I got into that, and then as I said, I was going into the record shops and still liking garage. Always finished. Then I'm getting the drum and bass records and the jump up. Now that's me. I'm like, right, these are the records I've got. That's what's coming out. Liquid drum and bass as well, like on Hospital Records, for example, and Solar, Metalhead as well. And at this point, I'm putting myself out there. I'm being a bit more assertive. The internet is there, and I'm listening to radio on there on the internet, and going in the chat rooms, and then finding out how can I apply to be on there. Recording demo tapes, entering mixing competitions. I got a radio slot. I only found out this purely by Googling myself on, don't do this please because it's embarrassing, but I won't tell you my old DJ names, but Googling yourself and then going, I had a radio show there. So there's a radio station called Rush FM, which wasn't FM. It might have been actually, but I wasn't told that it was. But I was on there, and then there was a radio station called Elite Radio, which was more techie drum and bass, but they let me on. They weren't too fussy maybe. And then after that, I went on to play on UK based radio, which was my favourite, and I was on there for ages. And I'd done a weekly show on there from home. It's like one of them stations you had to get the decks plugged into your computer. I've already by this point got a computer which can have a sound card, right? So the sound's
That's quite high tech for back then, like the streaming. Could it handle that? Could it? Or
it was just audio.
alright, yeah, I thought it did. That era would have struggled to handle that, but alright.
It was like, I feel like we were probably streaming at 128.
Probably like really
maybe
low,
96,
like, probably a fairly
96.
low bit rate, but again, back in the day, you didn't really care about that so much.
This is like
That's
the bit rate of the song, the quality. So CD quality was actually 128, if I remember rightly, at that point, MP3 equivalent, and then you'd stream in MP3 format, which is compressed, and then when you receive it at your end, you have a codec that makes it expand like a zip folder of audio live. So we're doing that, and you plug it in. You plug your audio into your sound card. And then the sound card talks to a software, which is Winamp, right?
I was about to say Winamp. Was it Winamp? I was about to say Winamp.
Yeah,
because we're mentioning all the old brands, and I thought Winamp hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, it's got to be Winamp, mate, of course.
I think you could still get that. I think a couple of years ago, I did get a Winamp just to play when I played audio on my computer. And I was literally like back in the early 2000s, there was still like a Winamp you could get. You might still be able to do it.
So a real player.
Yeah, I do remember. Real Player was absolute shit quality.
Oh, I don't remember, but I just remember it was just, they're all really weird looking. But with Winamp, there was a plugin. You get this plugin, basically whatever you put into the plugin, you could then put in some details, which is essentially hacking. But you know, you're being given detail like a server IP address and port number, username and password, and then you press go, and then if there's nothing already on that server, you connect. And when that connection is made, anyone who's got that URL can listen back. And you do that by creating a playlist on Winamp, right, which you could do back in the day, and save that URL in there, and then you make that clickable on your web page. Yeah. So you click on the web page, and then it opens up Winamp or Real Player.
I love the fact you're describing in detail how to do this, just in case someone wants to do this now.
It's fascinating to me.
No, it is. No, I like the detail. No, go on with it. I'll just say this funny. Yeah,
because broadcast is actually something that's been quite from this point on very prominent in my life. I'm still doing it now, and so you'd have this software, and it's important because no one really knows how it works unless you're doing it. You know, I don't know how TV works still because I've never done it. You know, like all that transmitting and all that, but with this, you're now on your computer listening to me in my bedroom, and I was fascinated by it. And you can connect to however many people you pay for. You can say I want 100 slots. Once you get to 101, that 101st person, they can't log in. Okay. So then you're like very thingy. So then I'm doing that now, and I'm locked in. I did that show for a while. It must have been at least 2-3 years or so.
Did you have regular listeners?
Yeah, I had regular listeners. None of which I really talk to now. Or, you know, I was a lot younger as well.
Did you know they were listening? Could you give shout outs?
Yeah, there was chat room.
Oh yeah, all right.
We were in the chat room days now. You lot had mobile phones. We had chat rooms. We could have conversations.
Yeah, I did some chat room stuff. Don't worry about that.
Fair enough. No, I said we didn't have no phone line.
No. I know. I mean,
we weren't doing no phone numbers and that. But that was the point where I was like learning and like how to present as well. So it wasn't just mixing, doing some talking, interacting with the listener, and regular listeners will come in, and I think like even meet them at raves and stuff like that then, which is quite great. And then again, it's like another expansion of we're not just in this little area doing our thing. And I had the radio show. It was either before or after, I can't remember. Double O and Mantra in their early days. I think at the same time or just before they were launching Rupture. So yeah, big up Indy and David. Like they've been doing this for a long time as well. So we had back-to-back shows, and I was playing rubbish jump up, and they must have been
back
like,
to the Winamp days.
They must have been like, what on earth is this guy playing before or after us? Do you know what I mean? And so we'd hand over to them, or they'd hand over to us, one or the other. That was great. And so yeah, I was listening to their show, and then really like, actually there's some, wow, what is this stuff, you know? And I'm discovering still at that point. I thought I was this is me, this is it, just this jump up stuff, which was big at the time, and I was going out to nightclubs and stuff like that and hearing that. But then I started discovering really different areas of drum and bass because it's so huge, you know, especially now we're on the internet and anyone can do it and hear it.
Yeah, and obviously that time you were getting into it had been going a while, drum and bass.
I mean,
hadn't just come out, so it's probably been out at least 10 years, well, coming up to 10 years, obviously depending when you think it starts. So I say 94, 95.
Yeah, because obviously jungle was the prototype, and then it never stopped. It just evolved.
Yeah, just moved anyway. But moved into different sort of things.
But I missed out on a lot of all of that drum and bass stuff before that I was listening to garage. Where a lot of the jungle people went into garage.
You went down Metalheads every week?
Like, I never went to Metalheads, no.
I was going to say you're about 10 then, weren't you? Like,
if that, yeah.
I was going to say, yeah.
I mean, I went there. The first time I went to that building was it was like a burger bar, or I can't remember.
What, where the Blue Note was?
Yeah. It's now a Bill's, I think, if that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, my mum said she used to go there when it was.
Well, there you go. That's how I met your mum, mate.
Not Metalhead, easy. But it was a jazz bar. It was a jazz bar.
Yeah.
Before it was Blue Note. I mean, Blue Note was a jazz bar.
Well, I remember when it was a community centre, because my mates worked in there in the end of the 80s. I remember going in there and just chatting to it. It was community music were based there, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but anyway.
So I'm doing this radio show, and then one day, one of my mates who used to just come and hang, studio crew, whatever, and he introduced me to one of his good friends, who lived not too far from me, and he asked me, is it alright if he brings some of his records and, plays on my radio show? And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do that. So then this guy turns up at my house with a dodgy ankle, because he'd just been playing football, he'd injured himself. And his name is James Jimbo, DJ Strict, second son of the Len. Big up the Len. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But really...
I know, mate. It sounds like you're going to some deep gang shit there. Like, I don't know. I bet it'll be like something naughty.
Nah. And he came in, and we had a very similar taste in music, actually. Especially when it came to like the more, I'm talking about, I'm discovering stuff that's not jump up and getting into that. And he was playing that sort of stuff. And he was a bit older than me. And he'd been collecting records since the hardcore days. So he's got a lot of vinyl records of the early like happy hardcore, breakbeat hardcore, jungle drum and bass. He's been collecting non-stop, and we hit it off. And then I think my radio show became our radio show, I think, if and then he started taking me out clubbing, and we would go to luckily just the tail end of it, Swerve at the end, Renegade Hardware at the end, Ram at the end, a lot of these things at the end. I went to at least one of all of them, I think. Swerve I went to, it was either bi-weekly, I think.
This is Fabio's one you're talking about?
Fabio, yeah.
That was also more the jazzy one.
It was kind of more like liquid drum and bass.
Yeah, right.
Deeper beats. But I used to go along with, these lot are a bit older than me. I was 17, I think. 17/18. I do remember sometimes being a bit nervous, have I got the ID, because I had to have ID.
Okay.
Was I old enough? Used to go in there, no problems. Also, Fabio, I'd listened to a few years before, when he was doing, Fabio and Groove Rider were doing the Radio 1 show. So, I was familiar with Fabio and the music that he played. And I really enjoyed that. It wasn't in the main end club, it was in the little bar, kind of a little bit further upstairs, a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's way more intimate, and it's a different kind of vibe. But that was wicked. I think it was Wednesday night.
Well, the End was a great club, wasn't it?
Yeah,
obviously the sound system was great in there.
Mate, I've been there maybe 5 or 6 times before it shut down. That's the kind of days I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, right.
I see Andy C playing there, and it's mind blowing. If you haven't seen Andy C at the end, I feel sorry for you, because it was amazing. It was so amazing that you've missed out on that.
I used to go to Renegade Hardware nights. I mean, me and Warlock and all that used to go down Renegade Hardware.
Yeah, that was at the end as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was regular at the end. We were always down there.
Oh, yeah.
Funny enough, a mate of ours did the accounting for the drum and bass levels. He was drum and bass accounting. So we'd always get on the list through him. But
to get in?
Yeah.
I had to pay the ticket. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah,
I didn't have any kind of in anything at this point. But yeah, I remember sometimes going to the end and then going home and screwing off work and then making tunes, because I want to make tunes that sounded like that last night, and whilst you're still in it. So yeah, we'd go that on a Wednesday, and also frequently go to Bar Rumba on the night after.
Oh yeah, movement.
So you're writing off
movement.
Yeah, movement at Bar Rumba. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Ray Keefe and he was the resident there, I think.
Yeah, well, when we had Rachel Miss Pink on, she played down there a few times, and
definitely.
But no, movement was a great Thursday night. Yeah, and obviously it's a smaller little place, but everyone played down there.
Yeah,
it was all the heads used to be down there.
I had no idea, obviously. I'm just
Yeah.
like there. But yeah, Rachel, good thing you mentioned that, because she was the only one who actually gave me any good tunes in Black Market, if I'm honest with you. Everyone else would just palm me off with like all the rubbish. So like Rachel, she would just treat me like any other person.
Well,
so big up.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? She talked about this on her podcast. I don't know if you've seen her podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she mentioned, because when she worked at Ambient Soho before, how some of the, if you like, the younger drum and bass crew into the records had come to her in Ambient Soho, because, you know, if they went to Black Market like Nicky or Ray, they probably wouldn't get the tunes off them. You know, they were 14, 15 when they were buying records, but I said Rachel would sort out. So that's good. Good you said that about Ray.
Yeah, no, I wanted to hold on to that one because
no, big ups to Rachel.
Rachel was,
you know, she was not a gatekeeper or like, she always wanted to get the tunes out there.
Even if there were the white label stuff that she probably been told don't give that to anyone, I still got them. So big up. Yeah, I could actually go out with something that by this point was exclusive. You know, they were talking about earlier. The white label, I've got at least 2 weeks ahead of everyone else.
Well, I know it's kind of funny, but like there was like a little thing like you were like, oh yeah, I've got the white labels, I've got the that, you know, or you know, again, you know the paper, and everyone would be like, oh, check this one out. This is like.
Well, you get to scream and shout about it. You know what I mean? Like, I've got the exclusive.
I mean, again, it's part of the deal anyway. Being a DJ, having these little tunes when you like, and then when you're doing the radio, you can be like, you know. Yeah. I've got this.
Yeah, sound clash culture, mate. Do you know what I mean? Having something exclusive that you haven't even got access to, mate. Yeah.
Well, I'm still doing that at my radio show. I always shout it out. You know, like I say, if you've got something that hasn't come out yet, it's always good to let people know and to have them tunes in it in your bag.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, you started to go out, basically.
Yeah, I'm still going into Soho, and that shop had long gone. The one I mentioned earlier, Fab Records.
Yeah.
Scream Records were hanging in there. Black Market was there. I think they changed it to BM Soho by that point. A lot of the shops started shutting down as well. Uptown had gone. So I'm buying vinyl still, going out clubbing, doing the radio show. Still not really making too much music at this point. I think this is swaying more into the DJing aspect of my career and learning about going out clubbing and
like I say, learning about it. But it kind of is a learning experience.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. I went to my first big rave at Ali Pali, and it was like one of my birthdays. I think it was like my 18th or 19th. And let's try ecstasy. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Go on then, you might as well.
Yeah.
I think I took 2.5 pills or something like that.
What?
Because I took half. They said take half. You know, listen to the elders.
Yeah. Well, that's the
2 hours later, nothing. I was like, okay, so take another half. And then I think I took about maybe it was not 2.5, maybe it was 1.5. I know. An hour later, nothing. So then boom. Now I've had 1.5 pills, and then now it starts to go all wrong. So overdosed, didn't you? Ended up leaving during Dillinger was playing like a really loud Valve set. It was great, the night was great, and then it just started turning backwards. So I had to go home. And,
were you alright?
I was fine. I stayed in my bedroom for about a week.
Okay.
Because I had to call in sick, and I just didn't want anyone. I was so like paranoid, you know, like it was a really bad come down, and I didn't touch them kind of drugs for a long time afterwards. Actually, it put me off. Don't do drugs.
Well, there was that. Well, there was a period when a lot of them had lots of ketamine in and stuff like that.
Maybe it probably was.
So
there
were like, and again, like, who knows?
My cousin, who was with me, he's slightly older than me. He had, I won't say which one. You're probably gonna guess that, family, aren't you? He took half a pill, so to incriminate him.
Right.
He still felt he had the same effect, so it probably wasn't the amount I took. Maybe it was the actual content.
You might have just had, I mean, again, this is
It was rough. I went back the year after though, but I didn't take any drugs and had a great time. Transmission, it was called. It was wicked.
There we go. Just shows you don't have to take drugs to have a good time.
No, you don't. Yeah, just get really drunk. So I started going out. I was going to Fabric quite frequently. Went to like True Players there. I think Med School had a night in Room 3. I was also going to like Dub Police and stuff like that, which was like kind of very cheesy jump up dubstep.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but yeah.
Casper and Rusco.
Okay, yeah.
So you go to like the True Players or the Rusco night or the Dub Police night, which is the main room, but then wander down into room 2 and you got like LTJ Bookham playing. You're like, oh wow, this is wicked, and like, oh, this is new, and for me discovering. And then room 3 was even more underground. Like you get such small little brand, like Exit Records are in there. So discovering Exit Records at that, like Caliber and oh my days. And I'm like, oh my god, this is more than just this big room sound. And you know, I'm getting a little.
There is that thing. Obviously, you're in a big club like Fabric, but like the other rooms quite often do have the better stuff, the
Yeah,
smaller
yeah,
rim.
yeah, yeah.
Like you said, it's quite funny. It went from 2 and then 3. It was even more like underground. You know,
You're like, doop, doop, doop.
And then suddenly you go in the toilet. It's incredible. There's one person there just playing a tune. Yeah, it's
on his phone.
most underground tune.
He just made
heard.
it on the way here.
Exactly. Yeah, he's using it EJ2 or whatever it is. Yeah.
EJ3, bro.
EJ3. Sorry, mate. Oh God, EJ2 and 1.
What
were they like?
Yeah. But so we'd fully immersed in that world now. You know, it was a weekly event, like a weekly occurrence, going out nightclubbing and doing a radio show, and you start telling people about the raves on. We weren't really plugging them, like we weren't asked to plug them, but we would just say we're going to be at Renegade Hardware this weekend. If you're up for it, we'll be there. Come and say hello. They didn't know what we looked like because this is all just radio still, isn't it? There was no photos. This is before social media days as well. So come down. We'll be wear the t-shirt or something. You know what I mean? Like. And then you start meeting people, and
did people come up to you then? Were you wearing the t-shirt? Did people?
Yeah, like are you Dexta? It wasn't Dexta, it was whatever my DJing was then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do meet people.
You don't want to give out your DJ name then?
No, it's embarrassing stuff, mate. No one needs to, because it's there. Unfortunately, I can't remove it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was my. I was still working in that same job. I was there for ages. Luckily, they kept me on. Like, I was hardly ever there.
In Waitrose?
Yeah, Waitrose. Yeah.
Oh my God! Big up Waitrose.
Yeah. They could probably was so happy when I left, because like they could get someone who'd come in. A bit like my school days.
Right. Right. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, so
remember you're an employer now, aren't you?
I'm an employer now. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so you're the other side of the.
Yeah, it's changed now, isn't it?
Anyway, all right. Back to the.
And then I was there, and then like I left London at one point because I think I got to that point where I was like, I was still living at home with my parents, and I wanted to do something drastically different. The rebel in me, I was like, I need to move out. And I met one of my mates, a sister of my mate actually. We took a liking to each other. Yeah. And she lived in a small place near Bournemouth, and we were like dating and seeing each other, travelling, and then I think she was like, oh, why don't you move down here? And I was like, oh, that seems like a great idea. Yeah. Moved down there, it lasted about 6 months, and then I was like, Dad, can you come and get me? Come back to London. But yeah, that was a little bit of a break from the London thing. I'd still, if there was a big rave going on, I'd take the train up to London and then come back. And I was still doing my radio show, because obviously it was remote, so I took my decks with me and still doing my radio show. And there's a couple of record shops down there, and they were down in Bournemouth. They liked it a little bit darker. Out of London, they liked it a bit darker.
Well, funny enough, I've talked about a few people about Bournemouth lately. There's always been a lot of them seaside towns, but say Bournemouth in particular, there's always like a little scene down there.
Yeah, there was.
Quite a strong scene down there.
Yeah.
Big sort of nights people travel to.
Yeah, I started discovering like this people like Current Value and Lime Wax, and like it was heavy, and it's a bit like I always like aligned it to like metal. I remember listening to metal when I was a kid, like pop metal, as a teenager. Sorry, and then this music was like the heavy metal equivalent of drum and bass,
Yeah, there is that sort of sound.
So I really got into that, actually.
Yeah.
And when I came back to London, I was like, yeah, I'm playing a lot of this, and therapy, like therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Dylan and Robin Chaos.
Oh yeah, I loved the old Dylan stuff. That was incredible.
Yeah, that was sick.
Really dark. I remember when that stuff coming out. Me and my mate Ian Black Mass Plastics, we were really into all that sort of the Dylan stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that, and all that Breaking Science.
Proper like dark sort of like.
Yeah. And by this point, I was like, there was a lot of the record shops were fizzling away, and shopping online like Juno, Red Eye, Black Market at the website. They were still open by this point as well. They did shut down quite rapidly though.
Well, Rachel talked about, and she said that basically she thought like, they were too slow going into the online market.
Yeah, they definitely
and so they allowed people like Red Eye to really steal a jump on them, and so suddenly when and there was that period 2010ish, I don't know, are we talking that era or is that a bit later, but when people were legitimately, loads of record stores did start closing down, and like people were legitimately like, oh, maybe this is kind of over with the vinyl stuff. As in they've been saying vinyl's been dying for years, but it was like, oh, is this finally going to be it? And then it hasn't, obviously. But anyway, this is like around 2008, 2009. I moved back to London. I left my job and everything. Because I left my job at Waitrose and I got a job in Bournemouth, right? Some call centre. There's loads of call centres in Bournemouth.
Did that, hated it. Relationship fizzled out. It wasn't really a relationship. It was just like, I think it was just me needing to get away from my current life. And then I was signed on, and I was just signed on to the job centre's allowance, job seekers allowance, what it was called.
Yeah.
Trying to find and I was like, I really want to do a job in music, so I was very picky, and I was like, oh, these courses are rubbish. Like, there was one in there though, and it caught my eye, and it was like studio la la la, and I went there. I went for the interview, and he was like, basically, based on your CV and the way it went, you learn we can't teach you anything you don't already know. But he goes like, if you go and get a job, just get any little job, go and work in a supermarket part time, get yourself signed off. He gets his tick, so he gets paid. And he goes, in return, I will help you, mentor you in music world. And we discovered that I had an idea of starting up a record label.